Hi Madeira Companies. I'm again Victoria McBride, your 2022 United Way loan executive for us this year. I'm really excited to say that we're a little over halfway through our campaign this week, so we have until Friday to get us there. I've been blown away by the numbers that I've seen just from the past week, so I'm really excited to see what we're going to have these last few days. And to help us get to the finish line and cross it in a really strong way, I'm excited to have our CEO here with us. You know him, you love him, Mr. Dave Gilles. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Victoria.
Good. We all, of course, know Dave as our CEO, but he also has a really long-standing history and relationship with United Way, and most recently a particular relationship with one of the community partners. So I thought we'd start off today just being blessed again to hear someone else's story about their connection with United Way. So let's hear it.
Well, thanks, Victoria. Yeah, my relationship with United Way goes way back to when I first came out of college and my first job. I actually was the tax accountant on the United Way of St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I sort of got familiar with their policies and procedures and how they operated, and I really thought it was unique in that they really did focus on minimizing expenses so that all the money that could go to the partner agencies could go there. And that's if you watch Devon speak, they still speak of that today. So that's back in the 90s when I was dealing with them. It's still the same focus they have today. And so I got invigorated with the United Way when I moved to Lubbock. So my first year in Lubbock was 2006. I came here to lead the Sudden Link region that was based here in Lubbock. And I think probably 30 days after I got here, the campaign started. And under Cox Communication, which owned the cable company before, they were wildly successful. They raised a lot of money every year. There was about 800 employees in Lubbock. I was told everything was ready to go. We were going to have a campaign breakfast, and it was all good. Dr. Michael Shonrock from Texas Tech was the chairman raising of the fundraiser that year. He came to speak. We served cold burritos. It was a rainy day, and it was kind of a thud. And so we raised like half what we did the year before. And I think a lot of that was just the uncertainty of the change of going from one company to another. But it was also, I didn't put the energy into it that it needed as well. I didn't understand that need. And when you start to deal with charities, you start to realize the importance of someone or some bodies bringing energy into the equation. Without it, people just assume, you don't really need my help, either monetarily or physically going there. So I learned my lesson. I promised the United Way of Lubbock that we would do better, and so made it my mission that I was going to be very involved in every campaign from that point forward. We recovered nicely the following year. I was asked to join the finance committee the year after that of the United Way here in Lubbock. So that was, I guess, in 2008, I joined the finance committee. And in 2010, I joined the whole board and was the treasurer. And I did that. I did the board and the treasurer thing up until about 2015. So got to see a lot of the agencies, the partner agencies that are here. There's 23 of them. There's been 23 since I've been here. A couple have changed, but I think 23 is the magic number for what they can fund and feel they're giving it a legitimate amount of funding for. So as part of what the United Way does that really kind of relates to my background in accounting and accountability is they don't just give money and expect the partner agency to just do whatever with it. Right. It actually comes with some accountability, and your good organizations truly like that, because as a board we would split up into different committees, and we would go and visit these partner agencies. We would view their policies and procedures. We would see the good that they were doing. We could offer them suggestions. They would answer any questions we had. And I really like that interaction, both for the partner agency, but for the United Way and us as board members, understanding what needs they were filling in the community. And if you look at those 23 agencies, if you haven't watched Devon and Victoria's podcast, you really need to. I know it might be daunting that you'd say, it's 30 minutes. It'll be a really good 30 minutes for all of us living in Lubbock. She really frames up the needs of the community very well in some slides. Stuff that you mentioned in the podcast you might not want to look at, and it's true, but it is reality. And there are a lot of things that we need to help our community to raise ourselves up. And what better place to give either your time, and I would encourage all of you to, if you're thinking about volunteering, please do so. And one of the agencies is the Volunteer Center, which Dave Marcinkowski and Josh, I think, both sit on the board of that agency. They can match you up with any number of, I think, 150 nonprofits in Lubbock. But please, I encourage you, it will do your heart so much good to get involved in a nonprofit. So after I left the United Way board, I had a friend reach out and said, hey, the Boys and Girls Club really could use more people on the board. So I joined them for about 4 years. I just got off that board here this year, but it was interesting because I didn't know much about the Boys and Girls Club. And it was fun to get to know them, get to understand what they were focused on. And if you're one of those people that have ever said, I know what's wrong with our society today, young people just don't do anything, they play video games, support the Boys and Girls Club, because I can assure you they're not playing video games. They're doing physical activity stuff. It's giving them a safe place to go after school and in the summer programs, and it's keeping them active. It's also allowing them to grow in a diverse community. So if you don't know much about them, they have a lot of volunteer time that you can give them as well. So I encourage you to go find something that you can give your time to.
Yeah, and we were just talking about volunteer center is going to be another great place that also gives us resources. If you don't know really where you're going to fit in, or maybe you're most interested in, they have short kind of questionnaires to help find your interests and kind of match up where you want to go. We were talking about, what was the animal tag thing we were talking about right before this?
Garanimal tag. So anybody
tags?
Probably 45 and older will absolutely know what a Garanimal tag is.
Okay.
They'll match you up.
It's a matching system, right? And the Volunteer Center does that as well. So they'll take some of your interests and likes, and they'll match you with some places around Lubbock that they feel like you'll really be successful. So you won't be walking in and get thrown into an organization that you're not interested in, or maybe that you're going to feel awkward or uncomfortable in. They're going to really try to work hard to put you in some place that you like. And I said this last week, I'll say it again today. Talking about and seeing the list of our 23 community partners always brings a smile to my face, because the why we do this is important, but the who we're affecting is always my favorite part. And the Boys and Girls Club is definitely, as Dave said, a really exceptional, I think, member inside of those community partners. I've learned, and I've been thankful to learn as an LE from various community partners throughout this my journey. We've got to go and sit with some of them, talk and learn. The Boys and Girls Club, I've learned, has been around for a long time, around 40 years. Since 1940 now, so a very long time. And they've been able to expand from first only opening their doors to young boys to now girls as well, of course. And as Dave said, it's a really wholesome place for youth to be able to spend their leisure time. So if that's something that you're interested in, a really great organization there. Dave also brought up, Devin was with us last week, and she is a wonderful speaker for United Way. One of my favorite things she brought up last week was that United Way is working not only to give hands out to people when they need them, so kind of helping to pull them out of the river, but also working to provide hands up. So going upstream, helping them not to fall into that river in the first place. And that's something I wanted to talk with you a little bit about today, how you think United Way is doing that, how our campaign can help provide hands out and hands up, and just any thoughts you have over that.
Yeah, so I think she quoted Desmond Tutu, and if you're constantly pulling people out of the river, you need to move upstream to say, why are you going in, and what can we do to prevent that from happening? So, in reflecting on that, if you go back and look at those 23 agencies, it's probably half and half. There's probably half of them that are really focused on what's the root cause of the problem and how do we address it before the problem occurs. So in most cases, that's going to be services around education and kids, and a spam call, and focused on the early learning knowledge, but also ways if they encounter dangers or circumstances that they have a way to recover from that before it becomes life-altering for them. So it's about half and half. And then the others are, hey, you've fallen in, you're in the river, you just need somebody to pull you out so you don't just continue to float towards the waterfall that's up ahead. And there are several organizations there. From a Madera perspective, the Salvation Army, and maybe being here in the corporate office folks don't understand, but when we have a fire in one of our communities, one of the first agencies to arrive is the Salvation Army, and they're there to provide housing. If we don't have room in our complex or our community to house them, they will find it for them. So I think if you talk to any one of our community managers, they would tell you how important the Salvation Army is. So there's just a number of connections back in to what we do each and every day. I would also say, when Devin listed the priorities, she started with education. That's been, and she mentioned it too, from the time I hit the board, that was their number one priority. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you can get a child's life pointed in the right direction, have them come into kindergarten kind of ready for it, and that doesn't mean reading and all of that stuff. It's kind of more rudimentary than that. Are they potty trained? Can they sit still?
Can they hold a pencil?
Can they do those things? Yeah. And then grade level by third grade. And if you look at the board composition of United Way, you will always see the leaders of schools on the United Way board, because they know how important it is for children, and they know the United Way funds those types of things. I forget who it was. Someone famous, probably not Desmond Tutu famous, but really the only way out of poverty truly for a society is through education. And so it makes sense that that's the number one focus for the United Way, and you see a lot of programs around that.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of what you're speaking to now, what Devin spoke about last week, was really that providing hope. So it's hope, it's looking forward, providing hope to people in need or who are feeling like they're getting to a place of darkness. And that really is one of the points of United Way's 2022 campaign overall in Lubbock this year, is the word light. So providing light, providing that hope, letting them see that there's no true moment of darkness. And to help us kind of talk about that message and shift over into that, we have a short video that we want to show you, the 2022 United Way campaign video. So we'll share that.
Light. Light is everywhere. Light focuses on specific needs. Light illuminates new paths. Light gives life to new opportunities. Light is within each of us. Let your light shine bright. Give, advocate, volunteer.
Really is a great message every time I see that. It does speak more towards light shines on people when they need it, giving that hands out, but also promotes paths forward. So really helping us to promote some other new direction that maybe they go upstream so they're not falling in the river in the first place, and providing that hope that many people need. I've learned that United Way really believes there is no complete darkness. Even in a vacuum sealed room, there are always particles of light. Whether we see them or not, light is everywhere. So that's something I think the message this year our United Way chair really wanted to share, is that there's constantly light. And through our United Way campaign this year, Madeira companies, we're going to have a really great opportunity to share that light and spread that hope. So I wanted to ask Dave, what are your ideas around light or images that invoke light, and maybe your hopes for our campaign this year and how we can spread that?
Well, I think the video is always compelling. The United Way always has a kind of pull at your heartstrings video, and that was no exception. But I do think light, energy are somewhat synonymous in my mind. So when I said you need to bring energy, everything needs energy. It's saying everything needs light as well. So I would hope that all of us could bring our light and our energy to this to help our community. This money is going to stay in the Lubbock area, and it's going to do good in our community. And if you want to see a better world, I think it starts with your family, and then it quickly goes to your community. So what light, what resources, what energy can you bring?
Yeah, and there are so many ways to bring that light. Dave talked a lot about volunteering, and just time and education is a great place to start. Of course, monetary donations are a great way to give back to our Lubbock community. It does stay here. One of my favorite things Devin brought up last week as well, I say everything's my favorite, but it's another great point, was the heat map. So showing the zip codes around Lubbock that are affected. And I don't think a lot of us realize that it's that 79424, 423 South Lubbock who's really getting these funds more so than any other community. And so it's people around us that really need it.
Yeah, I think she said it, and I know we focused on it at the board level as well, and it's not changed over the time I've been involved. United Way is not for the poor. Mm-hmm. United Way is for our community, and you'll be surprised at the number of people that take advantage of the services, that need their services, and you would say, really? And yes, there's a lot of need. And her other two, she went education, then safety, mm-hmm. So and then I believe it was mental health. So, I mean, with the coming off the backside of a pandemic, we all know mental health was already an issue. It's been compounded by that.
And I really think that mental health, safety really go into a lot of what we've been learning the past couple weeks with Josh's DEI campaign as well, diversity, equity, and inclusion. In one of the earlier podcasts that you were a part of, Dave, you and Dave M., y'all talked about the diversity being an exciting part of our work culture, and the fact that we can learn from each other based on those different backgrounds is what will make us grow to become stronger as a company. And I think our United Way campaign this week really plays hand in hand with that. Talking about all of our different backgrounds, everything that does make us diverse and different, and understanding there are things we don't talk about and that we don't understand about the person sitting at the table across from us. So this United Way campaign, and knowing that we do have those chairs within the United Way organization that are making sure those funds go to the right place, is I think something that can really help us breathe a sigh of relief. It's, I think, a hard myth to bust, but one that we should bust about. People oftentimes don't feel compelled to give to certain organizations because they don't think the money's going where it should. But United Way works very hard to make sure that money's going where it can. We have someone who sat on the board who can speak to that and say that it does go to those great places.
Yeah, and Mike Nelson currently sits on the board. He's, I think he may have just finished his duty as treasurer as well. Mm-hmm. So he would absolutely vouch for that as well.
Stays here, and it goes to people that we know need it, and some people that are sitting right next to us that we maybe don't know need that. So it's a great
It's interesting, Victoria, that you bring the DEI conversation into this, and I think it's very valid. I was asked, I think Josh asked me in that first podcast, what do we need to do? And I said, well, you and Rodney need to cast a bigger net. But as we've gone through these podcasts, and if you haven't watched the DEI podcast, you're really missing out. They have been eye-opening and enlightening for me, and confidence building for me as well, because we can never talk enough about that topic. But what I found myself reflecting on in those is almost to a person from our guest speakers of minority, of color, they almost all brought up the word of, I didn't feel like I belonged. If you look at what the United Way does, it gives people that don't have a place to belong a place to belong. And if we can do that at a young age and get confidence built, because it's all about confidence. It's not education. It is a little bit. It is, but I'd say the more important trait is confidence. Then they're going to help solve our DEI issues, right? Because now there'll be more candidates that are just sitting in traditional paths for us to choose from. But
and we're going upstream to do that.
We're going upstream to
Yes.
do that. So they're definitely connected. And again, I'm gonna really hammer, if you've not watched every single one of those DEIs, you can skip Dave and I if you want. We're the least of the experts on that. But the folks we've had in have just been phenomenal. And there isn't a right or a wrong. We need to have conversations. And I feel much more confident to have those conversations now, because you can hear, that's all people want is, I want to feel like I belong. I want to feel like my perspective is heard. I want to feel like I'm part of the team.
Yep. Yeah, great message there. And I know we only have a few minutes, but I wanted to make sure just to end with any words of encouragement or just words to help us get through that final push on these last few days of our campaign, hopes that you have for us as a company.
Yeah, I would say, if you want to place a vote for Victoria, because Josh was the campaign leader last year, or Ellie last year, and I think he raised around 24,000. I think you can do 25,000. But in all seriousness, this is not, please do what you can do and what you can give. This is not saying you have to, but I also would like to send the Lubbock Area United Way a message that we all think they're important, whether that's even $1. The fact that if we could say we had 100% participation or somewhere near that, it's a pretty powerful statement. So if we could do that, that would be my ask of us. And then I would ask of you, not only the monetary, find an organization that you can go volunteer at, because that'll make the money you give, that will give you much more satisfaction than the money. But you'll see how that money is being used and how important it is.
And I agree, no matter how you might think it's a small donation that you're making, whether it's $1, $5, a one-time, monthly, or that 1% payroll deduction, I promise it all adds up. I've been so grateful to learn about how quickly those numbers add up. Devin brought up last week, I think the average donation last year was around $293 or less. And so those made up over a quarter of the donations last year. So it adds up really so quickly. No matter what you can give, it's going to be really, really, really helpful.
And our partners will match again this year.
Oh, perfect. So, great. That's a great incentive then. Yeah. Maybe not, I was trying to convince our certain COO to match everything, but at least we know our partners are going to be there for us. It gets Brent Jamison off the line. Our partners are doing
No, that doesn't get Brent off the line.
I'll make sure.
He's going to match, is what I heard you tell me.
That's what I thought he was going to say, so I'll make sure to follow up with him on that. In order to do that, of course, you all do have access to your pledge forms right now. As you're filling those out, please return those to both me and Renee Davis. And do remember, along with the partners matching, all full-time employees can still get up to that 8 hours, of additional PTO if you do the 1% payroll deduction, and that'll be available after the first quarter of the year. So for us, that's April 1st of 2023. So that's another good incentive just to do that 1%. 1% is not that much. You're not going to notice that off your paycheck, and it's going to go a really, really long way to help the United Way. So I want to give a really special thanks to Dave. Thank you so much for sitting with me today, sharing your stories.
Well, thanks for leading our campaign.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thanks for bringing your energy and your light to our campaign.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
And thank you all again for sharing a little time of your Tuesday today. Remember, we have until this Friday, October 21st, to submit those forms, so get those in when and how you can. And until then, happy campaigning.
Thank you all.